Welcome back to Talk and Chatter. This time we've got a bit of review here of the just sensational Ducati Multistrada V4S. I've had it for nearly a month now. Just came back from an event with Ducati, which was an adventure event with Nick Sellick, based up in northern New South Wales, and got to put this bike and a Ducati Desert X through its paces over basically a 3-day weekend. And not just one thing of putting it through its paces, but the other one is basically putting the rider through its paces as well and learning all about these bikes. It was a fantastic time. I was there for work to film it, but being part of the experience filming it and then learning a couple of things of basically how to maneuver some of these larger adventure bikes. And it was really, it was amazing to sort of sit down with Nick and Paul Bray and learn about, you know, how to turn these bikes, steering a little bit with the throttle, how much braking they can give, and just the different amounts of traction control that can be applied through these bikes, and ABS and wheelie control and everything. So that was a great experience basically as an intro. Then I got one for a couple of weeks to learn a couple of things for the next row of events that I'll be doing. I first picked it up in Port Macquarie, and what's the first thing you do when you get a motorbike when you're in Port Macquarie? You go to the Oxley Highway. So this one was fitted up with some road tyres. After going to the Adventure series, they put the road wheels on with road tyres and straight out to the Oxley Highway, and just, yeah, sensational machine. Like you'll see in my last reviews and all the reviews moving forward, it's not all about specs and that. I'm more about feel. I just go by feel. I think that's how I run pretty much most things. If I don't like it, I'm not going to do it. But yeah, try and go by feel for most things. And yeah, the feeling of this has just been great. So that first experience we'll go to basically to that was going up the Oxley Highway. It was about 4 o'clock, middle of winter. I still couldn't miss out. I was like, well, you know, we're here now. Let's have a bit of a go. So it was a wet afternoon, you know, as I say, very cold, damp conditions. But when you get the opportunity to go ride the Oxley Highway, you don't say no. So I went up the Oxley and yeah, straight away fell in love. It's you know, they've had a bit of mixed roads conditions up there for the past probably 18 months, just due to a bit of road work and that. So you can't get a really great run on the bike, but just what we had for that afternoon was just really good. The initial feel was just mobility, just pure mobility, trying to tip into corners with the road tyre on, the Pirelli Scorpions. With the Pirelli road tyre, just a really nice feel. It's got the 19-inch at the front. I guess a difference for that from what I've been traditionally riding at the last few months with the 17s on different bikes. Just trying to get used to that takes a little bit of time, but apart from that, feel is really good. Got a little bit of a dry section the last probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 Ks, and then all of a sudden come around in one corner that was really damp, and I'm like, whoa, here we go. And just usual thing, get back to a neutral position, find where you're sitting on the bike, and just no dramas at all. One of the other things I didn't touch on at the start was the first introduction with the bike with the adventure experience was to go on this, try and film a few riders at the event, and try and, you know, be ahead of the crew. So maybe not ride the exact same route as them, but try and get pretty close to it so I can just be ahead each step. So I went out, and a lot of you probably riders hang around northern New South Wales, some great riding roads up there, which we'll show you at a later date with a couple of things that we're doing with these bikes as well. But yeah, come out of a lot of the intersections down there are straight into 100 zones, which not very often happens in where I live or anything. Mostly it's onto 60 zones or maybe 80 zones. So this one particular one, I was turning right, you enter across the midsection of a corner, and there's a bit of gravel in that. So just open the throttle up, first gear, and you just feel like a little touch of wheel spin as you hit the gravel. I wasn't looking at the dash, so I didn't see the light come on. And then you click second gear. There's really nice, just a mix of electronic trickery happened where the bike's in perfect flight, front wheels just inching off the ground, and just an incredible feeling. That was my first feeling with the bike, and I was like, okay, wow, this is pretty cool. And my initial self-confessed nickname at that point was Gingerbag Naya, because that's how it made me feel. It made me feel like Pecco on this machine. So yeah, awesome feeling. The bike just eats that sort of terrain up, you know, left, right, just the real flowy stuff. Just loves it. It's, yeah, just a really, really good machine. So that was the first day we had it. Brought it back up to Queensland, and since then it's been really hard to keep me off it, to be honest. I absolutely adore it. The feel of this is great. Like, I just can't explain how good the feeling is. And, you know, a really good question, is the V4 motor the best motor that's ever made? I probably think so at the current time. It is just, it gives me enough room to want to rev. It revs really well, but it's still got that low down grunt and that you really get out of like the older V-twin. So for me, it is the best motor currently on the market is a V4 motor. What does everyone else think of that sort of suggestion? I know a lot of people over the years with different manufacturers have always rated V4s and that. This is the first one I've really got to have a great ride on and get used to. Back in 09, I had the Big Bang R1 when it first came out with that firing order. It gives me sort of that feeling where you've got heaps of low down grunt, but it just wants to rev and rev and rev. That's my feel. Yeah, love feedback on that if you've got some. So that was one particular thing with it. Standing up, obviously road wheels and tyres on this one now, but when I had it with the spoked variety, standing up position's really good straight away out of the box. You could maybe chuck a set of risers up on the front, but the position that they've got already is not too bad. I'm sitting at about 6 foot tall, 180 centimeters in the new terminology, until they bring something else out, which they always tend to. So that's, you know, that's one thing that basically you should be able to hop on and ride. We're in winter here. Winter in Australia is, well, winter in Queensland, I'll say. It's not that vicious, but heated seat. I've never had a car, let alone a motorbike, that's had a heated seat. So this has been great to have a heated seat. I've done a couple of night rides and just general riding. You know, it's probably about 9 to 12 degrees consistently when I've been riding. Ambient temp. Heated seat's been really good. It's got 2 stages at the front and 2 stages up at the rear as well. Pillion position, very comfortable as well. We've been out to dinner a few times on this bike and just for a couple of rides. Pillion position's fantastic. One thing, I've got kind of bigger legs, but one thing I do notice is when your pillion pegs are down, it is quite it's quite close in between there and there. So one of those things, if you're turning right or left out of intersection, you sort of really got to get your leg back up quite quickly, back to its house on the foot peg. It's not a complaint, it's just something that could be a little bit easier to feel and everything like that. So that's one thing that I do notice there. As you can imagine, with the Ducati, they come with a great brake package system. This one's obviously got Brembos on it. No fade, no nothing. Brembo, what can you say? You're not going to really bag it. It just does a magic job. You don't need to even think about it. You just, yeah, hop on the brakes, it stops, does what it needs to. Has got a like a hill assist through the braking system on this. It has been quite handy. The first time it came on, I didn't know about it at the time, so I squeezed the brake on a little bit harder and this orange light flashed up on the dash. I'm like, orange light, wonder what this is all about. Have I squeezed the brake too hard or something? But no, it's a hill assist or handbrake hold or just a holding assist. Really good if you're getting stuck on a little bit of a hill, and same thing if you're on a bit of an incline when you're off-road on one of these. Grab that brake, hold the brake in, give it a little bit of extra pressure. It's going to hold on your hill till you disengage the clutch and let it move forward. Real handy actually. Another couple of like little handy things that I've noticed is up on the left handlebar here, like there's more modes than you can ever think of on this bike. It's got everything you could think of with electrical trickery, but there's a little button with a spring on it. The spring, if you hold it down for 2 to 3 seconds, lowers the bike a little bit. So if you're jumping into a car parking space and your legs are a little shorter or anything, it just lowers that bike down a little bit. Same goes if you're off-road. So just another nice little tip that some of the people that have are a bit shorter, it can help a little bit. For me, the position on it is a really good size for adventure riding or riding. Like I said before, 6 foot for me. But if you're much shorter, your legs will be starting to dab the ground a little bit on either side to get yourself stable. That's pretty much some of the most of it. It's just really comfortable. It's one of the big things that I can't say highly enough about the bike. It's really, really comfortable out on the open road. You start up in 6th gear, and you can imagine what I'm saying. 6th gear, you start open the throttle up a bit. Some of those back country roads, it really comes into its own. You know, the screen's up. Another big thing about the screen, there's a button on the, well, little lever on the screen that you can adjust on the go. Just little things like that. It just makes it so simple to ride it. And I've said before that I don't usually feel screens too much because across the chest, I'm a bit bigger. So usually I hit the wind quite heavily on any bike, it doesn't matter what it is. The screen is quite protective on this. And that particular night in the Oxley that I was mentioning just before, was one night that I was like, oh, actually having a screen's pretty good on this, and I popped it right up because I think it got to about 4 or 5 degrees at that time, and it was starting to cool down a bit, and just keeping that wind off me was really, really nice. There are a couple of the key features, you know, the usual things: hydraulic clutch, you know, braking systems. Electronics on this, like I've said a few times, is just amazing. I originally got it, and this is probably my own downfall a little bit in coming from doing sort of road and racing a little bit. I immediately think you need to basically over tire everything probably. When I picked this up from Nick, I looked at the tires and I was like, oh, okay, well, we've got a 170 on the back, and this has got 170 horsepower, and we haven't gone for the Pirelli Supercore, so we've gone for sort of a bit more of a road touring tyre. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a bit of a worry. I have not been able to get this thing to do anything wrong. I have tried so many times to, you know, open the throttle a little bit earlier, see if anything can happen, see if I could get the light on the dash. It is, it's amazing. Like, trying to get the traction control light on or anything. The bike is so mechanically balanced. It's so safe. It just purely comes down to that. It is such a safe bike. Multiple ABS modes is something that's really, really interesting. Obviously in the dash, through the riding modes, there's like a touring, an urban, a sport, where I find myself in a fair bit of the time because I like the mode that it sort of sits in. And there's, you know, adjustable individual modes outside of those basic parameters as well. Now, mucking around with the ABS is really interesting. So you can have, you know, one where you've got basically front brake ABS on. You can have enduro mode, gets you no rear ABS on. So there's a couple of different things there, but I had a bit of a play around with the parameter with it within the sport mode. And these are all fully customizable as well. So you can do what you need with this bike. It's so adaptable. Wheelie control, ABS, traction control, all the different stages, it's completely adaptable. Traction control, fantastic. ABS, it's just, you just feel these things immediately. Like before I played with the ABS one, I thought, all right, let's have it in 2, and I'll try and lock the rear up. I'll keep the clutch out, try and lock the rear up. You get the da-da-da-da and pull up to a spot. Okay, right. I learnt this stuff from Nick at the course as well. And then I tried it with the neutral. So neutral. Da-da-da. Okay, yep, cool. I get this. I understand what's happening here. This is the system's working. Pulled up really nicely. Tried on a few uneven surfaces. Then bang, I went down to the next phase down of the menu. ABS. Okay, well, let's have the ABS off here. And then bang, stab that brake, and oh, okay, here we go. We're back to full manual mode. You know, manual mode engaged pretty much at that point. So I only had it on for just a short amount of time, just on complete manual mode. The system, you know, I grew up with systems, bikes without these systems on it. I, for a long, long time, probably said that, you don't need this or you don't need that. But they're so advanced now, it's amazing. Like, it is so good to ride the modern bike with ABS, traction control, wheelie control systems. Like, it has so much, it's so dynamic. I think that's probably the big thing. It's so dynamic. It's not like you're hopping onto one of those first traction control or ABS systems where you come onto the dirt and all of a sudden you tap the brake and then it just wants to just barrel you straight ahead. You can gauge it, or you can dial in what you want, what you need. Just incredible. So as a conclusion, Multistrada, just can't speak highly enough. There's no real bad side to owning one of these bikes. Roughly, 300 odd K fuel range is what I've got so far out of it. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. But if we worked out an average, I'd be saying about 300 kilometers of fuel range with the Multistrada V4S. So to wrap it up, it is an incredible machine. Like, it is built for anyone that wants to ride like an adventure touring bike. The build quality is incredible. All you have to do is have a close look over all the componentry. Things like the cruise control systems and that just work seamlessly. Yeah, I can't speak highly enough about the Ducati Multistrada V4S. It is an amazing machine. I'm very appreciative of Ducati Australia to lend this one to me. And yeah, let me know what you think of the talk of this, or review, or whatever we're going to call it. I'm not big on names, but yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. And the next one we're going to do, we'll be back with a Ducati Desert X, and we'll have a bit of a chat about what we did with the Desert X. And yeah, hope you enjoy it. Make sure you subscribe and like our channel, and we'll be back with another one soon.